I would like to call the working session for the meeting of the Bath County School Board to order on August 21st at 5:30 PM. Item number 2 is discussion of tonight's agenda. If there's any discussion on that agenda, please feel free to bring it forth right now. We can discuss anything you would like to discuss. One thing I wanted to discuss, if at all possible, I don't see anybody here from Pax Walker yet. I think they'll be here a little later.
Mr. Rice.
Is he? Oh, is he? Okay. Brenda and myself had a discussion the other night. We were here for another meeting, and we discussed the ceiling tiles and the ceiling tile replacement just a little bit. Out front in the lobby area. So that's one of the things that we'll probably want to discuss tonight and try to figure out what we're going to do there so we can give them an answer. I think it's item number 8 on the agenda. Do you want to discuss that just a little bit with us, or you? I'm kind of throwing this at you.
That's PR2, if I'm not mistaken, is what it is. It's on the agenda for that, for the ceiling tile. I know they'd looked at some other matters along with that, but I think they're still trying to get a bid together, pricing together on some of the additional lighting. I believe it's going to change some additional lighting with that, along with that also. So I'm not for sure. And I can answer whatever you'd like to ask me on it to my best of my ability on it. But I know I talked to Shauna. Jonathan was out last week, so I talked to Shauna with RTA some, and we discussed some of it. And there's some, as far as the, I believe the sprinkler side of it, it's included in the package that's with it already. I don't believe there's any additional cost with it.
Right now, what we have on the agenda is 2 options, option A and option B. Option A looks like we're going to basically replace all the ceiling tiles for a little over $14,000. And option B, the ceiling remains, and basically there's about a $2,300 credit there. I think that's under the one that's in the agenda tonight. Does that
Yeah,
sound
it's in
correct?
both. The $2,300 credit would be in both of those, even with the option A and option B.
Okay.
Because it's the ductwork that was included in that. So that's the credit that'd be applied to both of them.
So what are you saying, the ductwork does not need to be?
The ductwork that's in there, they'll be taken out. Then you'll have wall registers that will go on that office wall, the records room office wall, and that will just blow forced air out the sides, and not have to put the grills or registers in the ceiling tile then.
Okay.
I think as far as the aesthetics look of the ceiling tiles, I believe the question is with a lot of it, some of it where the remaining of the high school is going to have all new ceiling tile. The lobby area would be existing, and there's this, I believe there's concern about it matching and looking to par. So that's just a decision that you all as the owners would have to make, and we'll back you in anything that you decide on it. So.
When you say the rest of the school, does that include the cafeteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the
cafeteria
cafeteria will have new tiles.
Yeah, get the whole new tiles in it also.
The hallway that wraps around the cafeteria just outside the glass?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, your hallway, the main hallway out in the lobby area, all the way down area B through C gets the new tile. Also down there between the concessions and the cafeteria, that's all new ceiling tile in that area also.
okay, all right,
So that'd
thanks.
be the only area that would not have the ceiling tile if you decided to go that other way.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion about tonight's agenda? Okay, if there's no other discussion about tonight's agenda, we'll go ahead with item number 3, discussion of consent items.
On the consent items, if you'll look at, when you look at the agenda, there's 5 is consent, but there are 2 things in 4 under superintendent communication. 4B is fundraisers. Those are there because the board last year voted to allow the schools to approve the fundraisers. They are, unless they were a school-wide fundraiser, and so there are numerous fundraisers that are looked at. And then 4C, that's what Ms. Bowling just passed out. You do not need to approve, but from Ms. Barber, Dr. Barber, we have to provide the board this information on annual cybersecurity report, and all the board has to do by in 4C is acknowledge that you have reviewed and received it. In the consent agenda items, some things are always the same every month. We have 5A minutes. In 5B, superintendent expenditures, I sent a video this morning on update. I'll cover that very quickly. Those show the superintendent expenses made on my behalf for the month. My contract reads 3, professional growth of superintendent at the board's expense, and is first approved by the board. The board encourages the continuing professional growth of the superintendent through the superintendent's participation as he might decide in light of the superintendent's responsibilities as superintendent. And then there are 3 sections, A, B, and C. I have pulled out B, seminars and courses offered by public or private educational institutions. And so I'm asking that the board approve 5 educational leadership courses for the 23-24 school year through Spalding University. That'll just need to be a vote for or against. 5C, July financial statement. That's the financial report showing the monthly expenditures. 5D are the claims, all paid during the month. 5E is travel, any out-of-state or overnight. So BCHS senior class trip, March 6th through 11th. They're wanting to go to Charleston, South Carolina on a coach bus. BCHS FFA wants to attend the National Convention October 3rd through November 4th. It's Chenault funded, and it's going to Zionsville, Indiana. 5F, use of facilities. There's a list there of everyone wanting to use our facilities. 5G, pay bills through August 31st. 5H, review of all monthly reports of funds. 5I is a Gear Up Kentucky MOA. This is a recurring annual MOA to assist our low-income students successfully transition in and through post-secondary education. 5J, Unite AmeriCorps MOU. We were, originally we had hired a teacher through MSU Core, and that was cut by Morehead State University. Unite AmeriCorps is offered to pick up the AmeriCorps position through this MOU, and will need board approval. 5K, student fees and honesty bonds for the 23-24 school year. That's a red book requirement. 5L, Sterling Health School-Based Services Agreement with Sterling Health Solutions. At no expense to the district, Sterling Health will provide pediatric care to students with parent permission that our nurses are not allowed to perform. The goal of this endeavor is to keep more students and staff in school and decrease absences. And I'll state that members from Sterling Health are here tonight as well if you have any questions you'd like to specifically ask them. Those are the consent agenda items.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the professional growth of the superintendent, on the educational classes, when it says the seminars and courses offered by public or private educational institutions, I thought that was more for, and I probably misunderstood it, so I guess it's a Shelley question. Would that, I thought it was like a continuing education, like how we have to be certified by KSBA with our hours every year. I made the assumption that that's what that was for. I didn't realize it was to further your education.
And the question is?
It just, I thought it was for that. Is it actually for furthering education? I'm assuming, is it to,
Those are doctoral classes, that's correct. But the main thing is they're educational leadership classes. And so it's a twofold.
will they help promote to, like, will you get, will that go towards a doctorate or another degree, or what is it for?
It's those, yes, those are doctoral classes. If you completed the doctoral program, you'd get a doctorate. And so there are 10 classes within that doctoral program. So I'm asking to take 5 of those, but it's twofold. I do get a doctorate at the end if I complete that session, but it's also educational leadership. So we've got theory and practice, research, all the good things that we do every day in our job. We talk a lot about Hattie and analysis and meta research, and this allows me to learn more how to get into the analysis, the data, to dig through it, to glean from it. And so it would be a dual benefit to me. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is that included, like, is that what we have in this contract?
Well, the contract is the paragraph 3 of the professional growth of the superintendent at the board's expense, but first approved by the board. So the board encourages continued professional growth for the superintendent through the superintendent's participation, as he might decide in light of the superintendent's responsibilities. So there are like 3 subsections on that. A, operations, programs, activities, sponsored state and national school board and school administrative associations. So I think those are fairly clear in terms of KSBA and all the other abbreviations for all the things that we do in education. B, seminars and courses offered by public or private educational institutions. And C, informational meetings with other groups and persons, skills or backgrounds to improve the capacity of the superintendent to perform his professional responsibilities for the board. So I think the whatever that may be at the board's expense, but first approved, it is on the agenda. And therefore, I think that is, I don't know if it's as clear-cut as you wish for that to be, but that's why I think the board has discretion on which they believe would be for professional growth for the superintendent.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on item number 3, the consent items? If not, we'll move on to item number 4, discussion and update on the Bath County High School project.
First of all, I'd like to give accolades to Ms. Brandenburg and Mr. Thompson and the custodians here at the high school. They have made the contractors' jobs a whole lot easier. They've been able to work with us and we with them. They have been gracious to help us out in areas that we've needed some help, and also we've been able to help them in some areas. So I commend them on being able to have a great working relationship, and I think that's important for not only the staff here, but also the students here. So I want to commend each and every one that's been a part of that so far before I give you an update on what's taking place. And also with our employees that we have on site, they have all been instructed, if you've not noticed, I give them the bail schedule So every time we have class change, all of our contractors stay in the areas that they were working in and don't get out in the hallways so that it doesn't cause confusion or any kind of clashing with the students whatsoever. So they go to their designated areas during class change. Then when the classes resume, then they come back out and go get what they need or work wherever they have to work. So it's been a work in progress, and we're so thankful that how things are going and how things are improving on a daily basis. It's really been a good startup with school when it started this year, with construction and with the students that's been in the class, in the hallways and all that. So everything has worked good so far. With the progress of the work, the parapet, you've noticed it probably as you came in, we're about 65% complete with it now. They're finishing up on the framing of the parapet walls with the metal studs. They like one side and part of another, and they'll have those finished. Then they're going to start around September the 5th with the demolition of the rooftop itself. And they said it would approximately 2 weeks they should have their part of that demoed and completed back on. So we're hoping by the end of September that the gym parapet will be completed, roof and all, the way that it's going right now. So it's been a collective work with the different trades. We've got, I think, 3 different trades that's working on the parapet right now that's doing the work there, and they're working good together, and everything's been coordinated very well. As trucks have come in, you've noticed we've had lifts in, but we are accommodating. We've told everybody, you know, when they come in with a shipment, something for the school, let us know. If we're in the way, we'll move and get out of the way and make clear. We're barricading different parts of the area off around the gymnasium as we work, just to keep from anybody from getting hurt. It's like this week we have Wednesday and Thursday, the gymnasium will be shut down to the children temporarily for those 2 days because we're doing cutting and welding with a bent plate for the steel for the parapet walls. And Ms. Brandenburg has agreed to do that. We just didn't want them to see the sparks or look at the welding flash. So it's worked out good to be able to keep them out of that area for those 2 days. We've done it 1 day last week and it worked out fine. So we're grateful for that. We've got demolition is completed upstairs on the second phase of what we're doing right now. In Area C, we have 4 classrooms that have been demoed, and there's began this afternoon putting new duct work back in the ceilings up there. They're expecting it to be a little quicker than what we had projected, so we're really on schedule and really a little bit ahead of schedule right now on this phase that we're working in right now. So we're expecting our AC units possibly to be shipped out on September 11th now instead of in December. So we may be able to start installing the new units sooner than what we anticipated also. They'll be doing that if they have to on Saturdays, during shutdowns, holidays, whatever we need to do to get those installed. The geo wells, if you notice, they've been completely done. They're drilled and finished. They've started the lateral lines last week and fusing them together. They started, matter of fact, digging today to get ready for the vaults that come in. They'll be coming in this week. There's 2 big vaults that'll be coming in to tie those lines together. So it's moving ahead of schedule also, and we're thankful for that. If you would like to, I'll give you a little brief synopsis on the LAVEC building while we're at it. It's completely demoed. They'll be possibly pouring concrete back in the restroom floors in the Chenault building this Friday, if not by Monday anyway. So it's progressing exceptionally well. So it's going real good. All the demo has been done. They've already started running some of the electric lines back in there, some of the conduit, putting stuff in place for it. We've got part of the LAVEC project that's in the high school. They done their work Saturday. They removed the flooring and the benchtop tables that was up in the business lab area. On our plans, it's room 214 and 215. I believe it's actually 211 and maybe 210 or 208 on the building placard. But they're now prepared and they'll start working them for new flooring later on. Grid work is going to begin on August the 30th. We'll have a grid guy back in so we can get our above ceiling inspection started by September the 22nd, and then hopefully soon after we'll be able to turn those classrooms back over and then start the next phase. Is there any questions I can possibly answer?
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions. Prior to school starting back, there was a lot of talk about the heating and AC, not being covered in the building, not having some areas of it not working. Are there any areas in the building right now that are not working with AC?
No, it's worked all summer long while we worked. Matter of fact, we shut some up, we had Tim to shut some of the units off this summer because we had the doors open. There was no sense for it to be on. I think that was one of the days when school started, some of the units wasn't turned back on. They turned them back on and started cooling again. But no, there's no units that's not working. As of now that I know of, they had a couple fan motors that went out, and I think Eddie and them replaced those. But every area that I know of is cool. No problems.
I guess I should have asked the question differently. There is no air conditioners down due to construction.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. My other question is, you had mentioned the welding getting ready to happen in the gymnasium.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said some concern about sparks and, people, seeing sparks from the welding, that kind of thing. And I don't know what the specs say. Will there be any kind of person there watching fire?
Yes, we have a fire watch.
Okay.
He's there. He was there last week, and he'll be there the whole time he's welding. We have a fire watch on site.
Because the welder's not looking for a fire.
No, he's welding.
That's right.
The guy, he stands inside on the mezzanine and watches and makes sure there's nothing that sets a blaze, which by the time the sparks come out, they're out. They don't last long, but just in case for safety, we have a fire watch.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions, and my concern is mostly about technology. And I need to know if the work that you're doing, is that affecting the data wiring and the data trays and all that that's installed above the ceilings? And if it is, will those be replaced?
Whatever's in our scope to take out and put back will be done. Yes, absolutely. I mentioned to Brad some this morning about some data issues with the demo that we're doing as of right now, and I contacted our electrician, and NewTek is actually putting some data in. So he's contacting them so I can go ahead and get moving forward with that.
Okay, well,
So it will not hold up or hinder anything as far as the school, no.
okay, well, it's just been my experience that electricians and people that do data wiring have a different point of view.
The electrician subbed it out to NewTek, which is a data company.
Okay,
Yeah,
All right.
they're not doing it. It's through them, but if they're not doing it, the electricians aren't.
all right,
It's a
thank you.
data company.
Okay.
One more question. You mentioned the field across from us where they're putting in all the wells. Will that field be, is there more digging going to go on in that field, or will that field be put back to its original state this fall?
It'll be put back to its original state this fall. There is
Okay.
digging that's taking place now for the vaults and then the lateral lines that go in ground. But after that, they have to put it back, and then I think last of September toward the middle of October, they're expected to seed and straw.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions about the high school project? Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 5, discussion of additional teaching positions.
On the regular agenda, these will be items 9 and 10. Number 9, OES is requesting 1 additional teacher through the use of Title I funds, and OES and Crossroads are requesting 2, that'd be 2 total, 100 limited day contract teachers through Title I funds and/or extended school day services, ESS funds. And so I kind of flubbed on that. So we're going OES requesting 1 full-time teacher, Title I funds, and then OES and Crossroads, total of 2 teachers, 100-day limited, splitting the funds with Title I and ESS. And then item number 10, we're requesting a hearing impaired / LBD special education teacher for this year. And the reason behind that is Crossroads needs an interpreter for a deaf student. The position for interpreter has been posted and currently has 0 applicants. Contracted companies have been contacted and currently have no available interpreters. KDE, Department of Education Deaf Outreach Consultant, reported there is a severe interpreter shortage statewide and recommended that if there are no interpreter applicants, hiring a new hearing impaired certified special education will allow ASL fluent staff to serve as a language model. And so this is we have a student that this is required for, and so we're requesting an health impaired LBE special ed teacher.
So I have a question. If it's required and we can't find one, there's none available, what do we do?
Well, we feel confident we can get an HI LBD. I think we have a plan for that, but we can't get the interpreter or the others. And so
Okay.
I'm looking for Ms. Witt. Am I speaking correctly, Ms. Witt? Would you mind coming to the?
When I had the meeting with the family to talk about the need for an interpreter, and we call it an admissions and release committee meeting, that's for special education, I did invite the Kentucky outreach person there because I wanted to make sure I was doing the exact right thing. And she was very supportive and gave us several ideas of what we could do since the ARC decided that this child could benefit from an interpreter. Really just not benefit, has to have an interpreter for them to progress in their language development. So, the first thing is to find an interpreter. Well, we posted that position and they're gonna send it out all over the state. And before the pandemic, I was in that situation and we did use a contract company for that. I called the contract company also and they said they didn't have anybody. And the other detail about that is if they had have had somebody, they are $400 a day, which would be about $72,000 for the school year to work with the contract company. Okay, then the second thing that we could do is if we could find a CODA, and that is a child of a deaf adult. And I sent some feelers out for that, and there was I had a little bit of interest, but nobody has contacted me wanting that job or to apply for that job. And then the third choice you can do with a child that's deaf is, if all else fails, you can use a language model, and that's someone that is not fluent in ASL, is not a certified interpreter, but knows the language. And we do have a staff member like that in the district. And so that is, I'm at the last thing now, and that would probably be the route we'll have to go. And so to replace that person, we put this position on the agenda. And if you have a hearing impaired, a teacher that teaches children that are hearing impaired, they can't serve as the teacher and the interpreter. That's a law. So, it sounds like it would be easier if you just put one teacher in there and let them interpret and teach, but they don't allow that. So,
Can you define CODA just a little more for me?
a child of a deaf adult, just somebody that was raised by deaf parents.
And thus they know sign language and could do ASL.
They would be fluent in sign language, just haven't taken the test. I had a relative back home that was a child of deaf parents, and they knew sign language but never pursued being an interpreter.
Would a person who knows sign language but may not be certified by the state be someone who could,
Yes.
okay.
And if I could find, and then the other little detail of this is the family agreed to let me have a month to get this figured out, because they're concerned with their child, and every day is just ticking that the child doesn't have somebody in there. So they did give me a month, which is about the day after Labor Day is what I have to get a plan in place, get something going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Witt.
I had one question for you. while we're talking about these additional teachers, I know it's probably just a little bit soon, but do we have, this year's numbers on kindergarten at Crossroads and OES?
Well, I don't have them in front of me, but yes, we have them. I can pull it up in the break on Infinite Campus and show you the enrollment numbers.
Are we gonna need to add teachers?
We're actually a little close at Crossroads in fourth grade, and so, but I couldn't tell you at this moment where we are on kindergarten.
Okay.
If I had a DPP, no, Ms. Watkins, I won't put you on the spot there. I'll pull it up in between these sessions, and I'll have the numbers for you.
Okay, Mr. Steele, I have a comment about Title I teacher, and I've expressed this already, is that it's very expensive to hire a teacher with your Title I money because of the matching fringes that have to come out of your budget, and every teaching position you put in does take away from supplies and technology that can go to the students. So I have a big concern about that. And I need to know how many Title I teachers are still at the elementaries already. Or there's 3 or 2.
I can't answer that. I'll
Okay.
get that for you as well.
And I should have asked earlier, I just
That's
didn't
that's
think of
okay.
it.
It won't be hard to get for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments about item 5, the additional teaching positions? I guess, let me ask again. Do we need to discuss kindergarten in the regular session?
I've not had any discussions from principals saying we need kindergarten teachers.
Okay, I don't want to wait a month if we need to do it right now.
Well, everything's on an allocation, so K through 3 is 24-1. So what could happen if a family of 10 moved in, they had all kindergartners, I could be back in a month saying, we need another teacher. So once you cross your threshold, you look at a secondary teacher. One of the issues we will have, I'll share this with everybody, is there's an extreme teacher shortage. And so, like in our fourth grade, 28-1 is the allocation, but if we just get a couple kids, then an extra, having 29 in your classroom is going to be okay instead of trying to go out and find a teacher that's not out there, or a teacher that is not to the Bath County standard. So those are things we'll also keep in mind as we move forward.
Do we have to temporarily change that ratio?
You can get waivers on all the ratios.
Okay.
So they can, yes, ma'am.
So that's something site-based can take care of instead of us? Then that would be the way to go. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if we're done with item 5, we'll move on to item 6, discussion of the motor vehicle and property tax rate.
Every year, we are required to adopt the motor vehicle tax rate. It has been, and we are requesting that it remain 46.40 cents. That is the maximum available rate. It is the same as last year, and I believe the several previous years before. It says 46.40 cents. I don't know how to read that. 46.40 cents. All right. So,
My only question is just, I want to confirm that it was said that it is not changing.
it is not changing. That rate is the same as last year, and I think since I've been here, it's been the same rate.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? That's pretty self-explanatory. Item number 7 is other business. Anybody, any other thing, any topics on the board's mind?
I have a request.
Okay.
We are in the first stages of our local planning facility committee that is going to create our district facilities plan. And we have to have an architect that does the engineering and they do all the work leading up to that. And so we were all of the belief that we had hired RTA Ross Tarrant to do that, but looking today, we could not find that. So I'm asking that the board consider putting another business in approval to approve Ross Tarrant Architects to act as our architect and engineer in the local planning committee. And Mr. Ruiz is here. If you have any questions, he could explain.
Hi, everyone. So I'll just open it up if there's any general questions about what that process looks like or what that deliverable looks like. But as Mr. Evans indicated, the second orientation meeting that is, I guess, led by Paul Christie, that requires a engineer architect assessment of your buildings. And so we had done that in 2019 last time, and then so a lot of the data is present in the KDE software. However, they are required to have that redone every time you reapproach your district facility plan. So we're not starting from scratch. However, we'll work with the principals to make sure that everything that's happened in the past 4 years, whether renovations that are happening ongoing, or immediate needs that have been discovered since the last time we did our assessment, all of those items will be included in our new report for the second orientation meeting. But any other questions you might have, I'll try my best to answer them.
Yeah, I think go into a little more detail about what that looks like, because, you know, I want to know what's going to happen from that process, that report, what's going to come to us, and, you know, how extensive it's going to be. You know, Mr. Christie the other night, I attended the meeting with Eric and Brenda also for this process. I just want to be part of this process and watch it. And, you know, the wants and the needs are different.
Right.
And the middle school is mostly needs.
Right.
I mean, it's needs from top to bottom. So maybe go into a little more detail for all of us so we can understand that process.
Sure. So ultimately, you're creating a district facility plan that has all your needs listed out and ranked. But to get to that step, the assessment part is completing what KDE calls KFIX, the Kentucky Facility Inventory Classification System. All to say, it's a database that allows for there to be an objective cost assigned to certain buildings at a certain size, so everything is apples to apples statewide. That report, that assessment that we present to the local planning committee is just a summarized version of what that audit assessment incorporates for each of the buildings. And so we can definitely go in detail with that during the presentation, but ultimately the cost information that is informing the DFP is derived from that statewide objective platform. So most of my process with my team would be to come into the buildings, document the latest conditions of all of the systems, from finishes to your mechanical to everything, and we would update the data that's already in there. A lot of the assumptions the state makes is that there's a typical maybe 15-year life cycle for, say, a mechanical system, or a 20-year life cycle for lighting, or 30 years for floor finishes. So there's a lot of standardized intervals that we have to just abide by because they want to be consistent across the board. However, to your point about needs versus wants, the assessment will automatically spit out the KDE determined ready to replace or ready to repair items that each building has just based off their age, point blank. Then we'll work with the local planning committee and Mr. Evans or whoever is involved with the process to identify the wants that aren't easily identifiable in the system. For example, I know it's for security and safety reasons. A lot of schools have been starting to do a lot of these secure entry vestibules. However, the audit system does not track whether your school has that entry point or not. Some districts have a preference for how they have their access controls for the district. However, that may not be a required need that KDE points out as a separate line item. Hey, set aside $30,000 to upgrade your access controls. So there are definitely a really clean list of confirmed, really objective intervals and systems that the assessment will automatically take care of in terms of identifying what those needs are, how much it is, and how it ranks with other needs that come up in the building. But then we'll work with the actual committee and the principals to identify, sure, is there a need for flooring? Yes, but the ceilings are not as old. However, there's a giant leak in the media center that requires this need to be a need for this one school, for example. All to say, we'll go through each building, we'll document and update the audits that are currently present in KDE's system. We'll give you that summary of list of needs, the cost for them, and the wants or the recommendations for what we would work with KDE to put on your district facility plan that may not be a need according to the software that KDE uses. And I know that's probably really vague, but there is a way that the DFP is informed by mostly the needs that statewide is uniform with the approved per KDE wants or recommendations that each school might come up to be unique for.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay. But just to put a pin in it, it's a two-step process. It's first, we have to complete the classification system assessment, which is the presentation that we give the LPC. And then those needs get shuffled around throughout the DFP process to determine is that a priority 1 item, a priority 4 item, and how that divides up, say, the urgent need of the middle school being like a primary replacement, priority 1 possibly item, and then say Crossroads just mechanically only needs to have a renovation, so that's maybe the next priority, and then they kind of go down from there. But we'll work with you all to make sure that everything is set up for what KDE approves for the DFP.
Okay. Sure.
Mr. Reeves, you mentioned the middle school,
Yes.
and we already do have some preliminary idea and some preliminary funding. So will that school still be a part of the new facilities plan?
Yes, as long as the district continues to own that facility, KDE requires almost every school center, that's how they describe it, to be its own assessment. So yes, short
So
answer,
it will be assessed with a new perspective
correct.
from like present time forward?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And I mentioned that there's already data entered from the last assessment. KDE annually updates the cost. So the costs that were reflected of 2020 for the middle school will automatically, if nothing else changed for some reason, and that list of 30 items were still urgent, the dollar amount should be reflected of what 2023 costs are for ceilings and floor finishes and whatnot. So if for some reason nothing else changes from the last time the middle school was assessed, the cost no matter what for what it cost at 2020 will be higher now that we're in 2023 because they update that cost annually.
Okay, thank you.
So with that said, you'll be going through all the other centers also?
Yes, so we'll do both elementary schools, the middle school, the high school proper, and the Chenault building. And then I think on the proposal, we quoted, because KDE is focused on school centers, so we quoted the square footage for the school centers. There are some districts who are interested in doing all of their buildings, their bus garages, their maintenance garages, or whatever is maybe the top priority. I just will say, knowing how the DFP is broken down, typically the administrative buildings, like the bus garage, automatically get ranked to like, I want to say category or there we go, priority number 4 out of 5. So all to say, there are districts who do all their buildings, bus garages, board offices, all of them, and their school centers themselves. But KDE is only focused on schools, so that's why the proposal only incorporates 2 elementary schools, the middle school, high school, and Chenault building. But if you would like for us to go ahead and also assess other buildings, we can do that too.
I think at this point, I mean, y'all tell me, but I think at this point, we got so much to do on middle school, OES. I mean, I don't know how we could ever get to a bus garage.
If I could just add a note, if you do plan on doing any work on any of the schools, they have to be assessed and included on your DFP, even if it's for hardware at the high school or whatever. If there's a spot at the high school that we did not touch and you do want to have that addressed in the next 4 years, even if it's something small, the high school does have to be included. Just want to put that out there if you're thinking about.
Well, then maybe we just need to add it all in, including the board office.
We are, and we'll talk about that, our bus garage is in desperate need of an overhaul.
Okay.
And so if you see how we're jacking up buses and it's we're outdated and need overhaul. So we can talk about it,
Okay.
especially after the main meeting, and see how the board chooses to go,
Sure.
how they direct me.
Just, I don't
We
know
just
what.
need a full district, I guess, go over.
Yes, so
Yeah.
definitely we can do full district. Just know that the proposal that I shared with you, Mr. Evans, I think that only focuses on the school centers because that's what we did last time. We can easily do the other buildings as well. It'll just be a different amended proposal at that point, but definitely we can do that too.
And the last law, I can't remember what House bill it was, that allows you, that we can bypass a lot of the stuff through KDE. We had to go off our priority list, but you'll see, that's why if you're reading the newspapers, you'll see like Harlan's getting a new soccer field and all these schools are getting new athletic complexes because it allowed them to go off that script. But for us, our issues, so everyone knows, are school buildings first and foremost, especially the middle school.
Yes, and the plan process already prioritizes the schools themselves, but you have the option for any building that you own for the district.
Just considering we approve this tonight, and kind of fall back and get this approval going, and you get this started, we've already started the process with Paul Christie. So what's the time frame of getting this report done for district-wide?
So the deliverable for the next meeting, whenever that's scheduled, that would be the main deliverable that summarizes the overall tour of the district and the buildings. Safely, I think I can say that from start to finish, in terms of getting it toured and submitted to KDE, that should take maybe 4 weeks total, and then that would basically push out your current schedule. So I'm not sure if Mr. Christie was trying to get you guys published by January or December. I know you're aiming for February. All to say, we can definitely advise on whatever schedule was discussed with him. I think that at a minimum, that schedule has to be pushed off by at least a month just to get everything incorporated and sent to KDE for them to okay us to present to you all.
Okay. So to be clear, tonight what we're doing, we're just approving Russ Durant to move forward with this report and approve. We're not doing design or anything like that right now. We're
This-
just
This would just to have them come on board and be the architect and engineer for the LCP.
But correct, no design work.
LPC.
It would just be advising on here's what we saw, here's how we advise you on the DFP, and making sure that we work with KDE to make it published at a accessible time for your deadline of February.
And carry out the things that you just discussed.
Yes, but no design work, just setting up your next 4 years for what you feel is appropriate to execute.
okay. All right.
If I may add another point, not
Sure.
related to the district facility plan.
Sure.
I caught the last piece of what was discussed with Mr. Rice about the high school project. So if you have any questions about PR number 2, I can definitely answer some of those if there are any still. But I didn't know if that was already clear when Rob was up here. the high
PR2
school.
is the lobby tiles and the HVAC up there.
Correct. But if there are no questions, then I'll leave it alone. I just want to make sure.
Are there any other questions? No? I guess not.
Okay.
No?
Okay. Thank you all.
Is there any other business under item 7, other business from the board anybody would like to discuss? If not, we will move on to item number 8, and we will adjourn at 6:20 PM, the working session. I'd like to call this regular session for the meeting of the Bath County School Board to order on August 21st at 7:00 p.m. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action on tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made by Brenda and a second by Eric. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 5-0. 4-0, sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. I need to write that down. Item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance and Silent Devotion. At this time, we will take a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 4, Superintendent and Board Communication.
For superintendent communication, I've written down some bullets I'd just like to share with everyone. At the start of the school, we had some members of our community that were upset with a renovation at the high school. And so I understand from what they saw and what they thought, they were upset. But the thing to take away from that is a school that's in a renovation. It is being improved. And so I have spoken in great detail and will continue to talk about the middle school. So while the high school is in a renovation phase, the middle school is in a deterioration phase. The high school is getting better, the middle school is getting worse. And so for those that don't know, there were funds available outside the general fund to complete the high school through ESSER and LAVEC funds. There are not enough funds available outside the general fund to complete the middle school. These are just facts. The middle school cannot continue to be neglected. We are one major system of failure away from shutting down the middle school. Without proper funding, in the event of a system failure, students at the middle school would be divided and sent to Crossroads and the high school. And what I mean by that, if we had, like today on a 90-degree day, and if the high school were not in renovations, we would have to, OES is completely full, so we'd have to send like 6th grade back to Crossroads, and we'd have to take our 7th and 8th grade and put them in there, in the high school. And so we don't really have facilities to do that. And to repair that is not as simply as just call the HVAC guy and let him come repair it. It's months and months before systems could be repaired. So the district could not afford the repairs. So what I want to say all that is, I know you've heard me talk about the nickel, and I'm going to talk about it again. The nickel tax is the only solution that allows for adequate funding to address all the needs of the middle school. There are no other scenarios that can save the middle school. So I would ask that when the time comes that the board consider voting for the nickel, the community has the option, as they did last time, to get the recall petition. And if they get enough votes, I'd ask the board to let that go to a vote. And then the people will decide whether or not they're invested in the middle school. And so I can tell you right now, it is going to happen. That day that I describe is going to come. It could be this year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10. No one knows when it does, but we'll never have the funds to repair it when it goes forth unless we get other income coming in. The nickel allows that to happen. Our funding will jump tremendously, plus the nickel will be equalized. We'll receive another $560,000 from the state every year for 18 years, which comes over an additional $10 million that will come into the construction fund. So I just want everyone to say, if you were upset with the high school the way it looked, that's okay. But we have a middle school that's in the same condition. We're renovating the high school. We can't renovate the middle school the way we need, because when we go into that renovation, we're just going to be short on funds. So please consider supporting the nickel tax. That's my communication for this evening. Thank you.
Item number 5, discussion and possible action on the following consent items. A, July 17th and 25th, 2023 minutes. B, superintendent expenditures. C, July financial statement. D, claims. E, travel. F, use of facilities. G, pay bills through August 31st, 2023. H, review of all monthly reports of all funds. I, Gear Up Kentucky MOA. J, Unite AmeriCorps MOU. K, student fees honesty bonds for the 2023-24 school year. And L, 2023-24 school-based health service agreement with Sterling Health Solutions.
John, are we gonna vote on these, on B, or how are you gonna do that?
Well, we probably need to make a motion first and a second, and then go into discussion. Or we can discuss it right now if you'd like to, however you'd like to. Prior to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, my question is, I think Eric asked the same question. How many classes are you asking for? And are you gonna just do one? I didn't hear what the conversation was about the
that's okay.
classes.
There, I am asking for 5 classes. So originally on here, that's when I sent the video out today. Originally, it was just for the one class, but the classes are sequential, so it's 901 through 905. And so to really vote each month, it would be okay, except if you get to the second month for 902, or the second class, sorry, and you voted no, then it's officially over at that point, because you can't take 903 without 902. And so instead of just getting in and asking the board to spend an amount on one class, I just went ahead and decided it'd be best to put the 5 classes there and look at those as a whole group. And so either consider all or none. I think that's the best way to go. And so then I'm not halfway into a couple classes for there, and then we stop the program. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, whichever way this board chooses, I'll honor and respect that. That's not an issue. So feel free to, like I said to Mr. Conkright, vote your conscience. It's just something that I am asking for.
One of the things we just have to remember going forward is that, when we create a superintendent's contract, we've put this in the contract to do some of these things, these continuing education and training. So, we're going to have to do our part if we're requiring it of a superintendent. So, if we don't want to do some of these things, then we're going to need to be a little more better prepared on the contract side.
And another way to look at it, I did not take anything in B over the last 2 years. So if you thought you took a class, one in the spring, one in the fall, one in the spring, one in the fall, at the end of this year, if you were doing that county, you'd be up to 5 or 6. We'd be exactly where we are today. And so instead of them being spread out over 3 years, I'm just asking to put them all together into one, if that makes sense.
We could, Shelley, you tell me if I'm right, we could remove item B and discuss it in other business individually and vote on it individually and approve A through L excluding B. Is that okay?
I think traditionally, if someone's made a motion to approve the consent agenda, but then someone else may also want to first make a motion to pull any of the agenda items, and I think that's what you're saying, probably a different way, John, right?
Yes, and we don't have a motion or a second yet, so.
Yeah, so a motion to pull those particular things. If you want to discuss it further or vote on those separately, you may.
Motion pulled.
I make a motion to pull item B and to approve items A through L.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion on this item?
And to add B to other business.
Okay. So we're going to delete B for right now and come back to it in other business. Okay. So I'm going to state it real quick. We're going to, the motion has been made and seconded to approve consent items A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. And we do,
You might want to wait on that because 5E is travel.
okay, and it's got the, okay.
5E is travel, and I believe there's some questions about one
Yeah.
of the trips on there.
That's right, it's in there.
Sorry I didn't catch that soon.
Yep.
Are we going to talk about travel now, or are we going to put it on other business too?
We need to discuss it now. Yes.
Ms. Brandenburg, if you'll please come to the podium.
You made a motion, second, to pull those items. I didn't hear a vote on that one. So I think you're going to vote to pull those out of the consent agenda?
We pulled the expenditures,
Okay,
but we did not pull the travel because we're discussing it.
okay.
Do we need to vote?
I'm just kind of, a lot of things on the table. Yes, I think so. I think that you're going to pull, you may want to amend your motion because you
Okay.
want to pull A and then the travel,
B and
E is the travel, pull those.
B.
You have you've amended that, Eric?
All right, so
He's doing our.
I make a motion
Karen's
to
got us, I see.
amend my motion to pull item B from the consent items.
Right. B and the other item, okay.
And E?
Andy?
Yeah, because you want to talk about that, right?
Okay.
Okay,
So we're going to amend to pull
B and
items
E.
B and E
right.
for the
Then you need
consent
a
items.
second. And then second,
I'll second it.
okay, then a vote. Sorry, John, don't mean to step on you.
We have to discuss before we vote.
Yeah, you're right.
So there's been a motion made on item 5 to approve items A, C, an amended motion to approve items A, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L.
No, we're just making the motion to pull B and
Yeah,
E
just
at this
pull
time.
those items first.
So you're just gonna pull B and E? Okay, so the motion's just to pull B and E.
Right.
Second by Carl. Okay. Is there any further discussion of this? I think yes, on travel.
So you're just
Or-
pulling them
okay,
out so
okay,
that
yeah,
they can be
all right.
discussed further.
So we're gonna take travel to the very end also? And discuss it?
You don't have to. What I'm saying is, what we usually do is do a motion, second, to just approve all those items in there. But you're gonna pull those two out, motion second, and then had a vote. And then you'll come back and vote and approve the rest of those consent agenda items. Then you'll go back to your item B and item
E.
E, D, whatever the other one was, yes.
So they'll be under other items,
E, yes, correct.
other items.
No, no, you don't have to kick it down that way. You could discuss it now if you wish.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll say it again. You tell me if I've got this wrong, Shelley.
I don't know, I'm So the motion was for B, to remove it. Then it was, and second, but it wasn't voted on, so then they amended it. So it's B, E, that we're pulling those two items from the consent agenda. Right. So vote, a motion by Eric, second by Carla. Discussion.
Is there any discussion of items A, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L? Right? Okay. One more discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0.
I make a motion to approve items A through L, with the exceptions of B and E
All right,
on consent items.
all right.
Say it one more time.
I make the motion to approve consent items A, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L.
Okay. Motion's been made to approve items A, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Is
Yeah.
there a second? Have we got a second?
I haven't got one yet.
Okay. I second. Motion's been made by Eric and seconded by John. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, no. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 6, public comments. Are there any public comments? I didn't get
No,
any.
John, you probably want to go back to, you can go back to B and E now if you wish.
Because you're still under number 5.
We just,
Okay, all right. I thought we were gonna cover those other business, but that's okay. That's fine.
you can push that if you wish, you're the chair.
Okay, let's do it. So, is it still under 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to discuss items B and E. So let's start with B. Or are we done with B? Hold on one second. We're getting there.
You could go with B, you could go with B or E. It looks
Any
like
other
Ms. Brown's
discussion, Carl?
standing here, but
No, no, Eric, no. Brenda, on B, no. Okay, Ms. Brandenburg, we're finally ready for E, travel. tell us about the senior trip 2024. Just tell us about it.
Okay, so my seniors last year proposed 2 trips. They wanted to either go South Carolina or Tennessee. They chose Tennessee. Nobody really paid for it. So when my seniors this year and I started discussing their trip, you know, we started looking at other school districts, things that they have been doing. And so then some neighboring school districts have been taking their kids on a cruise to the Bahamas. So I started talking to other principals, asked them, what's it like? Tell me about this. What are the pros, the cons, and everything about it? And they had told me, you know, pretty much that of all the senior trips they took, that this has been the best one that they've taken because the kids are in an area, they're supervised, that they're watched, and that it's pretty much the same price as what they're paying if they would go to New York or somewhere like that. So on that note, of course, I started looking at their contracts, looking at how we can make this happen for our students here at Bath County, because I want to give them a senior trip, of course, that they will remember and that they will cherish forever. So on that note, I called up Carnival Cruise Lines, and the trip would be from March 6th to March 11th. We would take a charter bus. Martin Tours would take us to South Carolina, Charleston, where we would spend the night there, and then the next day we would get on the cruise ship, and then we would set sail the next day, and we would leave Charleston, South Carolina at 4 p.m. We would have a fun day at sea, and then on day 3 would be the day that we would go to the Bahamas for an excursion. We would be there from 9 to 5. I was told, like, during that time, of course, the kids would have to stay with their chaperones while they're there because of just making sure for safety measures for the kids. After that, you would get back on the boat. You spend another day at sea, of course, doing the things that you can on a cruise ship. And then that day, you would get back to Charleston, South Carolina around 8 a.m. Then we would leave there to come back to Bath County and be back here approximately 9 o'clock that night. So it would be a 5-day event. However, it's a 4-day cruise for everybody. When I started looking at like cost and all that, comparatively to New York, it's the same pretty much cost as taking the kids to New York versus going to the Bahamas. So it would be $1,200 per child. I do have a payment plan laid down here so they wouldn't have to pay it all up front. They would pay in different dates, which I have not put the dates on there just because I'm waiting for approval from the board in order to put those dates down. Of course, the sooner this is approved, the better, because that way I can, you know, make the payments more affordable for the families. So I have that there as well. Some things, you know, of course, I had to think about what would happen if the kid did something wrong while we were on the cruise. What could we do? So that's on there as well. Everything's laid out here that the kids would need. It tells the dates. It tells everything. This $1,200 includes everything. The kids would have to bring absolutely no money with them. So that $1,200 includes everything for the whole cruise, food and everything from beginning, middle to end. So they would have nothing else that they would have to pay when they went.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you budget for their, like when you go out to Nassau, their excursion? Are they all going to be doing the same excursion?
Yes, ma'am. They will do what's there. Of course, I don't know exactly what's there. I've never been there, but I do know, like, when they go there, that's the beach, and they have the shops and stuff. Now, I mean, if they wanted to buy souvenirs, of course, that would be on them.
Right.
But otherwise, food-wise and all that, they would have nothing else to pay for.
Okay. And I don't know what cruise this one is exactly, but normally they'll offer you 3 or 4 or 5 different excursion packages when you get there.
Right.
And, you know, snorkeling's one, or, you know, the glass bottom to the world, or the glass bottom, I forget what it's called, but it's in Nassau. That
Right.
is the big to-do thing there. So I just didn't know if you've talked to the actual Carnival cruise to see what excursions were offered to put that in here. And then I had another question here. Is there any type of fundraising that they can do to help all these kids be able to go on this?
Well, I would like for, you know, of course, I'd like anybody, like our whole senior class, to be able to go. I do know, like, as far as it goes, generally about 40 kids, 30 to 40 kids go. That's pretty much the norm for trips. And I have already talked to my bookkeeper and asked her to pull up some more for me so I could present that to you if it needed to be later on. However, like, if we did a fundraiser, and it was the whole senior class participating in it, then that money has to be spent on the entire senior class according to Red Book law. So it couldn't just be spent on a section of it, it has to be spent on the whole senior class. It's the only problem with that.
Okay. Maybe they could have a separate, team of kids that are wanting to go that can do something. I don't
Maybe.
know, you know, I don't know
I would
how that
have to like look into Red Book to see like maybe if there's another law that could allow us to do that. I do know though, if the whole senior class does it, then the whole senior class has to benefit from it.
Do you think there's kids that don't want to go, or do you think they won't go because of the money?
I'm sure some won't go because of that reason.
See, and that's why I just wish there was a way that we could have the money for all these kids to do something like this.
Me too.
How many seniors do we have?
We have approximately 121.
121.
121. I did, you know, like we will still have the normal senior activities such as going to Cave Run, to Kings Island, to all those things. So those will not go away with this. This is just the big trip that we will offer for them.
Well, and let me ask you this. Is it possible to, do not walk at graduation and do not go to prom? I mean, those are kind of two things that when you think back on your high school days, like when you're my age,
Right.
those were big things those are things that you remember. You may not remember sitting a day in ICP or something, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But that would be bad. ICP, you know, sitting in ACP
Right.
or being suspended or something would be bad. I would just hate to see, of course, I don't want any kid to act up either on the trip.
Well, I was just thinking like, you know, because we both know they have access to things on a cruise ship that they, you know, that maybe they wouldn't have access otherwise.
That's true. That's
so,
true.
How do you hold them accountable? How do you keep them from doing something that they shouldn't do? And like you said, that's big events, you know. So if somebody tells me I would lose that, then I would probably think twice before I did something wrong.
I think a senior kid doesn't realize how big that event is
That's probably true
than
too.
what we
I
do.
agree with you too.
I think when you're in the moment, especially a boy, they don't care if they miss the prom. You know, it's like big deal. You know.
Right.
But if I was that boy's mom, I would hate for him to miss his prom. It would probably hurt me worse than it does him.
Well, probably.
You know, I'm just trying to think of
And
something.
we could think of alternatives
Yeah,
to put there.
those are things that you can't get it back.
That's right.
You know, and
I will
would-
say that I got this contract, like I looked at all contracts around us, and this is similar, and they said they never had any events like that they had to worry about. Just
that's
because it's in such a controlled environment on that ship versus like if I was out in New York or somewhere else where it's not as controlled.
Right. You just have to have a lot of chaperones with you.
Well, yes,
You know,
that's the
that's
plan.
the key.
Yeah. When I talked to Carnival, you have to have like one chaperone for every 3 rooms. So in my mind, approximately about 40 kids go. So you're looking about 7 chaperones that
Yeah.
would have to be there. And everything has been built into this price. So I have done all the calculations and looked at everything possible there.
And it's cheaper for us to charter a bus to Charleston than it is to get airfare, like a Legion or something, into
Yes.
Florida?
It's a lot cheaper.
Okay. I just wish we could do a fundraiser where, you know, all the kids could go, or.
Well, me too.
I mean, I
'cause
know
this is
we
like a
all
trip of a
in here
lifetime.
want to see that, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then I would just like for if somebody gets in trouble that we don't pull prom or walking across that stage. I get in trouble, yes, but just not something that's a one-time event.
Right. And we could go something less severe.
I mean, it could be equally as severe, just not that main event that they're gonna
Right.
miss out on.
But to me,
you know.
that's really severe. If it's a main event, and
It
it's a
is.
once-in-a-lifetime thing, it is.
But it's not something that when you're 18, when I was 18, if you had told me I got in trouble, and I've never really got in trouble, so I don't think
Right.
I was a bad kid, but if I knew I was gonna sit and get in ISS or I was gonna be in ACP, I would have died. But if you told me I wasn't going to the prom, I was like, I would have hated it, but it wouldn't have been as bad.
Right.
You know, but now as a parent, I think that's worse than sitting in ISS.
Right.
So, I'm just saying from a kid's point of view.
Well, from a suspension or discipline standpoint, we encourage our coaches and our principals, if you're making the rules, that we use the word may instead of shall, and it gives you some leeway. So you may not graduate. I mean, you may not walk stage. You may not go to prom. but that doesn't mean you will, so
Well,
if
then
something.
that's better.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll put the word may.
You know, that way it's to your discretionary. I mean, if they did something super bad,
Right.
you know, there's nothing you can do to
Well,
help them.
the goal is for them not to do anything super
Right.
bad, for us
That's
to go
exactly
and have
right.
a trip that
Just
we
to
can
have a good time.
remember and enjoy.
Right.
That's the goal.
I think it's great. I just wish we could have some type of promotion for this trip. I just wonder if there are any kids that say, oh, I'm not going on that. Like, I have to, you know, I can't, or,
Well, and some kids may not like the idea of going on a cruise ship. They may not, you know, I mean, I don't know who, because I mean,
yeah, they don't understand that how
Yeah.
awesome, you know, something,
Yeah.
it's an experience.
they're pretty excited about it. Like, when we started talking about my senior class officers were like, this would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask the board real quick, do y'all care if we postpone this for 1 month? I spoke to Ms. Brandenburg about this, and maybe give us a little more time to get some more information from her. And she said that our next board meeting is September 18th, that's not too late for her to be able to do the things she's got to do to get everything in on time. Maybe come back, because there's a few things that we need to check out. And you did say that you'd already checked out the minor
Yes, I did.
situation, okay?
Yeah, when I talked to them about the minors, like, because there will be minors going on the trip, basically they said as long as the adult chaperone's there with them and we have like all the signed contracts and all that stuff, that we
Okay.
were good.
Okay.
And of course, they can't give me that stuff until we say, yes, this is what we're gonna do.
And one other thing I told her too is that in next month's meeting, it might be real good for us as a board to get a good feeling about this trip if maybe some of the senior class came and spoke to us and tell us how much they want, you know, just make sure, you know. I don't know what the number cutoff is when you get, you know, if only 20 people want to go, do you go, do you not go? I don't know. I don't know what that number is.
Well, I mean, of course, the more that goes, the less it's gonna cost because that will decrease the bus cost and everything else. You know,
Right.
I base this on basically 40 kids going, which is the average of what we've had go years past, so.
Okay.
Of course, we haven't had a senior trip since COVID, so we're kind of in a new territory.
Okay.
Maybe we could have an idea by the September 18th meeting of how many actually would be serious about signing up to go.
I could have them give me
You
like
know,
a list
just
of names,
an
like if this
informal
was a
survey, not
possible-
to promise the trip, but to say there's interest and,
Right,
Yeah.
you know.
to give you all a better number.
And any information you can funnel to the board through the month prior to it, just to help us, you know, feel good about it and right about it, and that, you know, everything's gonna be taken care of safely, and, you know, that's our biggest concern is, you know, kids going on a trip like this, which they go on the buses every night, and, just making sure that they're safe.
We probably need to make a motion on the travel. There's another piece to that that I didn't see. FFA needs to be approved.
Yeah.
So we're gonna postpone the senior trip?
Yeah, we can postpone this part of it and approve the FFA.
Okay. I make a motion to do that.
Okay. So, let's say that out if you don't care.
I make a motion to approve travel for the FFA and to postpone senior trip till next month.
Okay, so a motion has been made on consent item E, travel, to postpone a decision on the senior trip 2024 and to approve the FFA trip to the National Convention. That motion was made by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion on these two items? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of passing this motion as presented, please signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, still under item number 5, we need to discuss item B, superintendent expenditures. I think we all know what we're talking about here and what's going on. Any more comments about that as we move forward? These expenditures are presented to us from the superintendent about continuing education that is stated in his contract. So is there a motion to support this item B? If there's no motion, then item B dies. Item number 6, public comments. Karen, is there any public comments? No public comments? Okay. Item number 7, discussion and possible action on approving testing and balancing with Thermal Balance Incorporated for the Bath County High School renovation project, BG number 22-376.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
The motion's been made by Eric and seconded by Brenda. Is there any further discussion on this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, no. Item carries 4-0. Item number 8, discussion and possible action on change order PR02 lobby ceiling replacement, BG number 22-376.
I'll make a motion to approve BG number 22-376.
Okay, got you. Motion's been made by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which option.
We're passing the PRO2
Yeah, but is it option A or B?
option. Did you want option A or B? Option A was the total replacement. Option B is no replacement with a credit.
When Mr. Thompson and I met with the architects and Pax Walker, we were in agreement option B was the best choice. So that's my recommendation, but it's
Option B.
Yeah, okay. So,
That's with the credit, right?
Yes, sir.
motion's been made to approve change order PR02 lobby ceiling replacement, option B, under BG number 22-376.
Did we already do this at
Yeah.
the,
I'm just stating.
no, at the special call? Didn't we approve that already?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
We discussed it. We discussed it and said we we're gonna put it on this meeting. Yep. It has to do with the HVAC. Hold on, he'll come down and tell us.
You've been sitting there all that time. You're happy to come down, aren't you?
So, to be clear, both options include the revised HVAC design approach. So, initially, we had exposed ceiling and a giant HVAC duct. Clearly, the ceiling right there. So to save that money, the $2,000 credit or $2,296 credit is included in option A because the overall replacement of the work was like $16,000. But then that $2,000 offsetted it to be about $14,000 for option A. All to say, both options include an HVAC savings because there's not an exposed ceiling. It's going to be through the wall, really minimal, but it's in either option. It's just you get the full benefit of a credit, no extra cost for option B, or a brand new ceiling that's offset by some of the savings that the HVAC system got you. But both options happen.
Thank you, John.
So that motion, as I stated, was made by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 9, discussion and possible action on additional teacher positions in the elementary schools.
So what is that, 3 positions?
2 positions, isn't it?
It's one position with title funds and then 2 100-day contracts on ESS and Title I funds. So it'd be 3
positions.
teachers, but 1 full-time teacher, 2 100-day contracts. 100 days are serving Crossroads and OES.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made on item 9 by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
Motion passes 3-1. Item number 10, discussion and possible action to add HILBD special education teacher for the 23-24 school year.
Let's make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Eric and seconded by Carla. Is there any further discussion of this item? So this would be a position for a student that we have that needs an interpreter.
Yes, and in the nicest sense possible, this is one that we have to approve because it's, we're dealing with federal regulations and responsibilities of an ARC. And so, and it's also to help a child, but we can't not do it because it's required.
Ms. Biddle, you said something about the 30 days.
Yes, we-
Ms. Witt, I'm sorry. Ms. Witt, you said something about the 30 days. What happens if we don't make it in 30 days? If we don't find that person?
Well, we wouldn't be providing free and appropriate education for that child. Now, if, with the way that it is with the labor shortage and things, I'm not sure what an attempt, how much Shelley would know more about that. If we're attempting to find somebody and we just can't, I don't know how that works. I've never gotten in that position before where you absolutely can't. I know some districts around us are in that position with other special ed teachers that they can't find anybody. What do you do then, Miss Shelley?
But we have this child covered by moving another over, correct?
If I do have a person that has contacted me,
I mean, with our in-house
We can, but then that person, if we move a person in-house, they also have a caseload of kids that have to be covered by another hire. Because we have several kids in the district, around 10, almost a full caseload of children that are hearing impaired.
In special education, you get services, and what tends to happen is if you don't provide the service, they're able to come back and sue, and then we owe them those services. And so,
And it's just the right thing to do.
yes,
Yeah,
that is
it
correct
is,
as well.
It is. It definitely exposes the district without being able to, to get that position filled. And you're right,
Yeah.
evaluate the through
And,
public education.
I mean, it's an area that we had some, if anybody knows of somebody that is a CODA, they could call us, but so far I have not had any bites on that at all. And the last time, prior to the pandemic, when this happened, I had to go through a contract agency. I couldn't find anybody either.
Does
But you
KE
mentioned earlier that we haven't been able to find anybody through contract either, right?
What now?
We haven't been able to find anyone available as a contractor either?
No, the contract agencies don't have anybody to send me.
KEDC have any assistance?
I did go through their person, and it's, they use KDE's outreach person from the
Uh-huh.
School for the Deaf, and I actually had her in the ARC with me. And after the ARC, she emailed me with a lead on what I might could do,
Mhm.
and this was the way that she thought it could work out.
Right, good.
Okay. Sorry for calling you Miss Biddle. I'm just, sorry.
And students, they can go to the School for the Deaf, but, I mean, people are pretty reluctant to send their little tiny child there without them. And, that was something we also brought up in the meeting, and I completely understand that would be, and we live too far. We live 2 hours. Mr. Evans lives in Danville. I mean, it's not a trip you could take every day and back on a bus.
No, we'd provide transport, we'd end up spending probably more money on the transportation. So we want to help this child, so.
Are there other adjoining school districts that may have ability to coordinate that? I've seen them do that in some other type of.
Possibly, not the interpreter part, because that has to be
Mhm.
present all the whole time the child's at school. With our caseload's pretty heavy, but, sometimes somebody will have a day here or a day there that they can send a teacher and will contract with us. But I did put LBD on it also, is so the person, we have we're getting close to being at CAP at Owensville Elementary with our LBD. And so it would also serve 2 purposes. That person could have a few kids from an LBD caseload on.
Okay. So we have a motion by Eric and a second by Carla. Is there any further discussion of this item other than what we've just discussed? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 11, discussion and possible action to adopt the motor vehicle and watercraft property tax rate for the year 2024.
I'll make the motion to adopt the motor vehicle and watercraft property tax rate of 46.40 cents for the year 2024.
I second. Motion's been made by Brenda, seconded by John. Is there any further discussion on this item? I just want to make a statement. It's not changing. It's the same as last year. No fluctuation up or down. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes 4-0. Item number 12, discussion and possible action to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61-8101F, personnel.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Brenda, seconded by Eric. Is there any further discussion on the item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. We're now in executive session. Yep. Okay. All right. Item 13, motion to come out of executive session and take any necessary action.
I make the motion to come out of executive session, no action taken.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Eric and seconded by Brenda. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0. Item number 14, other business. The only item we have on other business, I think, is that we have a motion and accept Ross Tarrant as our architect engineering firm for
Local
the
planning.
middle school to go through this process of the entire district.
Yes, and just a side note, there's a cost of $11,102 plus mileage and printing cost.
And that's gonna go up if we ask for the bus garage.
And that's what I was gonna
And the
say, and
board
he will
office.
send that, but I think you could, if you wanna approve that, you can approve that, and if we choose to do the other, we just add on the additional.
Okay. Okay.
Can we just approve it all, and then we could have the discretion of pick and choose
Okay.
if we don't want to do it?
Okay. Ready?
I make a motion to approve Ross Tarrant, architect for the local planning committee for the whole district.
I second. Motion's been made by Eric and second by John. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0. And item number 15, adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Eric and seconded by Brenda. Is there any further discussion of this item? If there's no further discussion, then all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion carries 4-0. We are now adjourned at 8:33.